Hi, welcome to the blog Hilaire. I'm Bronx Girl, and today I will be talking about the Black Lives Matter movement. Many people would argue that the Black Lives Matter movement is part of a larger black rights movement that started with the anti-slavery movement. It just comes to the forefront of the media and mainstream attention in waves. This is in fact true. Black rights matter every day, as all human rights do. It's just that the public has a very short attention span, so movements die down and often much of what has been won gets eroded over the years. But I assure you, all the people protesting in the streets aren't crazy. When a movement breaks out, it is really like the bursting of a dam. The pressure has been building for a long time. So this protest comes from a place that's been previously hidden in the heavy hearts of black people, who for generations had to look down at their children and explain that while under the law we are equal, in reality, your life is and will always be worth less than that of a white person. And it is from this singular fact that this movement has arrived. It is very easy to think that these people just have a problem with law and authority, but trust me, that isn't the case. We do, however, have a problem with its application. It seems like at every turn the law is not made for us, but against us. If you look in the annals of African American history, one can see the 3/5 Compromise written in the American Constitution. One can see that of the first 6 American presidents, including Thomas Jefferson, the writer of the Declaration of Independence, only the Adamses weren't slaveholders. One can see the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, where the government used black men as guinea pigs and allowed them to die, and one can see images of the civil rights movement. Images of police officers setting dogs and hoses on peaceful protesters. When we look around today at stop and frisk and at how prejudice means that sons of the black community consistently keep getting shot and abused, and how the law seems to look the other way, it is very hard for me to look at black people in the streets and see miscreants and irrational law-breaking people. Instead, I see people impacted by a negative history that seems to always paint a target on our backs, ready to shoot us down. And I see people tired of it. Tired of that being our truth, and tired of people with white skin privilege not understanding that truth. And on top of it, making us out to be liars just because they can't see it. There is a history behind our actions. There is a history behind our anger. There is a history behind our frustration, and we are tired of being unequal. That being said, we continue to protest. We continue to march. We continue to sacrifice, and yet very little changes. With each wave of people stepping up to protest inequity, we make strides, but the underlying truth of our plight remains the same. We are still unequal. This is not just the truth for the black rights movement, but for every movement. What is it going to take to bring about a real salient change, or a real salient change? Well, a large part of the problem is prejudice and inequality are not just built into people's attitudes, but it is built into our country's infrastructure. So when we march for change, that could mean legislation, that could mean raising awareness, but in fact, we need a lot more than that. To topple inequality, we have to learn how to overcome privilege and explain issues that plague us in a way the privileged group can understand. In other words, if you want people to understand an issue on your terms, you must explain it on their terms. Remember, they have a history too, and it takes a lot to get people to shift their entire worldview. Also, once we address attitudes, which in turn will drive a larger cultural shift, we need to address the infrastructure. In other words, we need to collaborate with the privileged group to create and implement viable solutions that foster long-term change. Lastly, we need to understand that none of this is easy, and none of this happens overnight. Recognizing the importance of allies is important because a white supporter can be heard saying things black people can't. While that truth is a product of the system, recognize that we can use that truth to change the system. Every voice counts, as does every action. While marching and protesting is great for raising awareness, that method of tackling the issue doesn't explain to white people what we are frustrated about. The reason we were successful in the past is because we had orators who can bridge that gap. We had Frederick Douglass's "What to the Slave is the 4th of July." We have Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. We had so many voices coming from so many angles over the years that it was hard to ignore and harder not to somehow be moved. If now all we have is frustrated black people on the streets, then we are just playing into the angry black person stereotype. We need more. We need to be more dynamic, and we need to cover more ground. In essence, we need to learn how to communicate black to white people. And we need to come up with our own solutions. Solutions that are free from prejudice and that stitch the wounds of the past. We have a lot of work to do, but that is why education is so important. We learn what it means to be white every day. We can take that and create a platform for ourselves that gets us that much closer to equality and the lives we want to live. While white people only have TV and media when it comes to understanding minorities, we have everything when it comes to understanding white people. We have school, we have media, we live in a Eurocentric society. It's time we learn how to speak up and speak up more effectively. So thank you for listening, and feel free to like or comment on this video. On a side note, I just wanted to take this time to show some love to two of my brothers out there. Not literally my brothers, but two brothers out there who were moved by the Black Lives Matter movement enough to make a song about it. It's called Genesis 11:6, and it's just lending a voice to what's going on right now. Art has always been a way to give voice to the struggles of people, as it is a form of self-expression. And that's what these two men have done. They're black men with kids. They know what it's like to look down at their children and have to explain to them, hey, look, you're black in America. Understand what that means. Understand that means your education's going to be substandard. People are going to look at you and think that your education is substandard. Recognize that, because they both have sons, recognize that, you will be pulled over by the cops someday, and that your life just isn't worth as much as a white kid's in this society. So they are very aware of this issue and what it means as black men themselves, and so they have chosen to take part in the long-standing tradition of using art as a medium to raise awareness. So I urge you to support the song. Comes out February 26th. Like it, buy it. It's on Spotify. It's on all channels, whatever you like. Feel free to come out in droves and support them, as we do need to stick together. And thank you. That's all I wanted to say.